oasis in this mountain cavern and tunnel system she used as a fortress. Furnishings gleamed with jewels and rare metals, while the floor was coated in a soft sand she liked. She sat down at a table and began to remove her jewelry, while her daughters huddled around her.
"How are the hatchlings?"
Drukil asked.
"They are well, Mother,"
said Prubal.
"Vicious,"
Grubel added. Drukil carefully watched them in the mirror over her dressing table before writing the jeweled crown on her head. She had a weird relationship with her daughters I couldn't quite figure out. She needed them for procreation purposes, but she also seemed to see them as competition. And they were cunning. I wouldn't put it past them to sink a dagger in the back of their mother's neck if it meant they could be the ones to grow the army. Vizpics were originally asexual and cloned themselves. But somewhere in the last few years, the clones stopped reproducing. Drukil, as one of the last Vizpic females, began seeking other ways to procreate, as it was in her genetic makeup to produce as many offspring as possible. She was happy as long as she was being filled with sperm and laying eggs. She flicked the fingers of her right arms toward the door.
"Go check on them again."
Prubal, the bolder of the two, twitched her tail.
"But we thought..." "I'd like to rest. It's never fun disciplining my offspring." "Of course,"
Grubel said, snagging one arm of her sister and tugging her toward the door.
"Call us if you need us, Mother."
The two slithered out the door and shut it behind them, leaving me alone with Drukil.
"Prubal's getting too confident, don't you think?"
Drukil said into the room. My other life, on Earth, hadn't been that much better than this one, but at least I'd been free. I'd also had a dog, a stray mutt that kept coming around the old garage where I'd been squatting and just never left. I'd talked to him, told him things I'd never told another soul, and he'd sit there with big eyes and listen, maybe offer a paw in consolation. That was how Drukil treated me. When we were alone, I was her dog, the dog that listened and didn't talk, the dog who couldn't repeat or make sense of what she said, or so she thought. But I filed away everything she told me. I didn't think I'd ever escape here, but I dreamed of one day providing someone with information that could take her down and destroy this entire empire of hers. I'd thought many times of killing her. I'd held sharp knives in my hands and been inches away from sinking them into one of her eye sockets. But in the end, I never did. There was no point. Her daughters would take over, and they seemed a whole lot less predictable and more deadly than Drukil.
"I give them partners," she was saying. "They have their own hatchlings. They should be happy with that."
She provided any random species she could find to her daughters, who then took the hapless creature into their chambers, where they basically fucked him to death. Drukil never allowed them the powerful species, so the hatchlings were weak creatures who rarely made it a few days past birth. The Drukil didn't have emotional attachment to their hatchlings. They were more like products, like cakes off an assembly line. If one didn't make quality control, it was destroyed. This entire mountain was like a giant egg factory. I shifted my weight from foot to foot and stretched my neck. The tight skin of my back pulled, and I winced before relaxing my muscles. I was hungry. While she never starved me, I was on a pretty strict diet that was mostly protein-rich. I had never been this lean in my life, and I now remembered my wider hips I'd had on Earth with fondness. There was a knock at the door, and it swung open shortly thereafter to a Rogastix guard.